Hey there, John Bush. Today I'm going to talk to you about how manure or mud can help you to grow as a human being. I get this perspective from Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist monk and thinker, and he talks often about the lotus plant and how the lotus plant, this beautiful flower, it thrives and grows whenever it has manure and whenever it has mud. And a lot of people fear suffering, a lot of people want to avoid suffering at all costs, but there's a whole lot of nuggets that we can learn and some truths that we can gain when it comes to suffering or shit that happens in our lives. A lot of it has to do with the law of attraction too. And when I first became familiar with this concept, it seemed cheesy to me and a little far-fetched, kind of new agey, but we really are in control of how we view the world, and it's our thinking that creates our reality. It's our perception, which we have control over, that creates our reality. So while there may be difficult things happening, pain, suffering, strife in relationships or business or parenting or with friends, if we have a perspective on these situations where we say, hey, wow, what can I learn from this? Then it doesn't totally suck. And that's not to say that it's not going to suck, but there's a lot of growth that can take place. So one example that I have in my personal life is with my kiddos. My daughter is prone to breakdowns and has a lot of emotional struggle from time to time. She's been getting better, more balanced, but recently she had this epic mega breakdown over getting a new pet. She was the first one in our family to get a dog. His name's Murray. My son had this amazing little wiener dog, Chihuahua mix named Spooner, but he ran away, potentially got killed by a coyote, but don't tell him that. Actually, he knows. And so he's next in line to get a pet. Aliana still has a dog that's alive and well that she cares for. Hold on, I'm going to turn this light off here. Flickering, trying to get everything right. So we were talking about a pet for my son. She had this huge breakdown. She wants a new pet. It was like a 30-minute epic thing. And there's been some struggles in my family. I have a load of manure at my plate that I'll talk about more. I'm choosing to leverage this manure as an opportunity for growth, as an opportunity to grow myself, to grow my business, and to show up as the best father that I possibly can be. But the children's mother and I separated over 2 years ago, and it's been quite the struggle, and it's been a struggle for the kiddos. And so my daughter adopted in her mind this idea that it's difficult for dad to comfort me, and I get comfort from my mom. And this has been a struggle. And through this process, I have learned to be more gentle, more compassionate, more patient with my daughter. And so this 30-minute breakdown, it was epic. Frustrating at times, but I was in control of my emotions, of my faculties, and I remained mindful, and I stayed present for her, compassionate. I held space for her, and by the end of this 30-minute epic breakdown, she said, as she was starting to come out of it, she said, wow, maybe my dad can comfort me. And so the breakdown sucked. It was hard. It was a struggle. We all got blasted while we were driving in the car in my Nissan Altima, pretty small. My son's sitting there like, oh, Stara, stop screaming. And but at the end of it, there was some growth, right? And the best growth comes when there's discomfort and pain. And rather than see that as this terrible bummer, oh my God, it's so hard when my daughter breaks down, that was some really good manure that my relationship with my daughter needed to spring and to grow into a much more beautiful flower, right? Some other manure that I've had in my life. I also want to invite you to join our self-improvement groups. I linked to them right there. Brave New You Self-Improvement Group. It's a general self-improvement group. We share a lot of ideas similar to this in that group. It's a place where you can come, vent. People will be there to hold space and show up and support you. And then if you are struggling with addiction, whether it's pain pills, alcohol, heroin, you probably have a whole lot of manure in your life, and come join our group, Brave New You the Brave New You Recovery Group, and we can help some of that manure be converted into some flowers. Another struggle that I had was in business. And maybe some in the Austin area familiar that I was running Brave New Books for a couple years, and it was difficult. It was a struggle. It's really hard to run a bookstore. And at the end of the day, the landlord chose not to renew our lease. There were some circumstances outside of our control, but there were also many circumstances that I take personal responsibility for. And it was really when I was starting to step into entrepreneurship, learned so much. There ended up being a lawsuit with the previous guy that ran the show, and it was a struggle. It was hard. However, tons of manure came out of that, and it helped me to grow and blossom into a much more responsible, effective entrepreneur. And so I often look back and think, wow, at least I wasn't like a multimillionaire running some huge multi-million-dollar enterprise that had all these struggles. I have the lessons that I can take from that, and I can carry them into my business future where I will be more successful, where there will be more at stake. So again, it's all about our perspective. You can sit, you can wallow, you can have pain, you could struggle, you can be upset all the time, but you're not going to learn and grow from that. We can choose in our mind, the voices in your head, the thoughts that you control, the voices in your head, the thoughts, you have control over that soundtrack, that internal dialogue that you have with yourself. And so when shit happens, as I said, you can be down on yourself, you can call yourself names, or you can choose to shift your perspective and say, wow, that really sucked. What can I learn from this? Another example, say you end up in a whole mountain of credit card debt. Your financial life is in shambles. Maybe you got evicted from an apartment or something. It's like, okay, that sucks. You got two paths. There are two paths you can go on in the long run. One of them is self-defeating, self-deprecating, and it will only serve to reinforce the potential for you to recreate and reproduce those same circumstances, those same thoughts, those same habits that led to the financial ruin. Or you can say, man, I was in $15,000 worth of debt. I couldn't pay my bills. I got kicked out of my apartment. That all really sucked, but that was the manure that I needed in order to grow financially so I don't repeat the mistakes of the past. This has been an incredibly powerful lesson that I've learned, and I try to apply in my life daily. And like I said, going through a lot with this separation and some legal issues, and there's a whole lot of manure, but I've used it to learn, to grow. My son recently fell off of a porch at his mom's family lake house, and he fell on his head, and it was really serious. And there was a huge hospital bill, and we didn't have insurance at the time. Now we're working to get insurance. I always prided myself in this natural, holistic thing, but that experience, whole lot of manure, really was a catalyst for me putting in my head like, wow, I really need to man up as the father of this family. I need to get my stuff together. This whole hippy-dippy, activist, total freedom, anarchist thing just isn't flying in the place. It's not where I want to be with my family. So that was more manure. Splitting up with the mother of my children and how that relationship fell apart was a whole lot of manure that I have since learned from. And now the relationship that I'm currently in is so much more healthy because, again, I chose to take responsibility for the role that I played in the demise of that relationship. And I've learned so many lessons from that have led to a beautiful flower, a beautiful love, a beautiful connection, a beautiful understanding. There's still manure, but it's a really beautiful thing that we have. And then also on that same note, all these changes with my family have just really caused me to take stock of the relationship that I have with my children. And again, rather than beat myself up, self-deprecating, wasn't always the best father that I could be, had a short temper, short fuse, rather than wallowing and focusing on that. And again, I come back to the law of attraction. If you're like, man, you're such a jerk, you raise your voice to your kids, you're such a terrible father, you create that reality, you perpetuate that, and it doesn't serve you, it doesn't serve your children. So again, you have two paths you can go on, and we have total control over the narrative that plays out in our mind, the soundtrack of our life. We have control over that soundtrack. You can take control of it, take the reins, and you can choose to make magic and beauty out of the shit and manure in your life. And so you can say, wow, where did I go wrong? What was that all about? What lessons are there to learn here? And I'm telling you, if you're mindful of this practice of seeing the shit that happens in your life as an opportunity for growth, it will really make a world of difference as you navigate this often difficult world, difficult relationships, difficult financial struggles. As you navigate this world, you are going to be able to be in control of your destiny. You're going to be able to be in control of your relationships, in control of your life. And I promise you that the flowers will grow, and they will grow into very, very beautiful things. So I want to thank you for listening to me. Again, the message is when shit happens in your life, strife, struggle, suffering, whether it's relationships, business, family, you name it, there's always little nuggets of wisdom that you can learn. And if you're mindful of that, if you take stock in that, I promise you it will improve your life in many different ways. Join us with the Brave New You Self-Improvement Group on Facebook. If you like what you've heard here, we would like to have you be a part of our community so we can share, we can hold space for each other, we can grow together. And then if you're struggling with addiction, you probably have a whole lot of manure in your life and a lot of manure in your past. There's opportunity for you to grow and for you to pull yourself out of the clutches of addiction. And I myself and the other people in this group are here to help. All right, peace and freedom. Thank you everyone for watching. There'll be more coming. Feeling good.